Our senior reporter Canny Maphanga is live to us now from the Mabandla Justice College in Pretoria. And Canny, before we, I suppose, focus on what's likely to unfold over the week gone by, or the week ahead, I beg your pardon, it'd be interesting to see whether or not the Commission responds directly to what we saw unfold at the weekend in the death of Leandro Pretorius.
Indeed. Good morning to you, Ayanda, and to the viewers at home. Well, the Commission has already explained when the first incident took place, the alleged attempted hit on the life of Leandro Pretorius. I think it was earlier during the week, where the Commission stated that he was not a witness that was in their eyesight and that he had not approached the Commission yet. So they hadn't created a role for him yet in the Madlanga Commission with respect to witness D's testimony that places this particular individual at the center, or rather in a key role of the alleged murder of Emmanuel Mbense. So essentially that is where the Madlanga Commission stands now. But of course the implications for the process in the criminal justice system are much larger, Ayanda, because you now have a situation where a key role player in the Mbense murder case has now died by suicide, leaving you with now 8 possible suspects or witnesses to deal with the aspects of attaining justice in this particular matter. And the greater concern at large is that this evidence was led last year, which gave the police and the National Prosecuting Authority time to pounce on this particular suspect. However, that did not take place, and it now limits the options for justice for the Mbense family, particularly with this witness, because that is who witness D alleges committed that alleged torture act which led to the death of Emmanuel Mbense. So as time continues, you've now lost 4 of those possible suspects or witnesses in this particular murder. And of course, that limits the chances of justice for the Mbense family. And I think that's the overriding concern following the events of the weekend.
Absolutely. What we've also heard from police, at least at Lenda Mate, mentioning that part of what they're now possibly going to investigate is whether or not there's a syndicate where essentially the role players are starting to take each other out, because as you mentioned, 4 out of the 12 implicated people have died in these, shall we call it, unnatural circumstances.
Indeed, Ayanda, you're slightly inaudible there, but it is quite necessary for that to take place, because you're seeing this evidence being led before the Commission. Not only does it give the people involved some clues, but it gives you the extent to which the information is out there and what is known about the particular incident and how they could be possibly implicated. So, of course, the risk is there for such incidents to be taking place. And in the Mbense murder case, that is quite evident, because you started with 12 and you're now sitting with 8. And without any possible action or any mitigation towards that reality that you're pointing out, Ayanda, then you may actually end up with a situation where the Mbense murder case, when it is ready to be prosecuted or investigated to the fullest, you have no one left to hold accountable for that particular murder.
All right, let's shift our focus to what's likely to unfold, I beg your pardon. Today, Canny, we already saw the inquiry saying that they're going to shift focus back onto the alleged corruption that took place in Ekurhuleni. Quite a web of alleged graft that we've already been told about in several key witnesses, or testimony I should say. What do we know about who's likely to take the stand today, and I suppose which of the holes they're likely to plug?
Indeed, Ayanda, remember last year in phase 1, the evidence was led about the alleged reign of terror under the command of Commissioner Julius Mkhwanaza, when he had that acting EMPD police chief role within the Ekurhuleni Metropolitan Municipality, And then, of course, what happened then in the evidence is that we saw how he enjoyed a particular shield from a trio of individuals, that is Dr. Imogen Mashazi, the former city manager, and of course the former legal head, who is now in suspension, and the HR head, Linda Gashega. So what we are expecting today is that we'll start to hear evidence from those individuals, because there were expectations with respect to them in terms of the professional roles that they carried as legal heads and HR heads in the process, and they would have needed to play a critical role in not only disciplining Julius Mkhwanazi, but ensuring that he is held accountable for all of the allegations ranging from the Blue Light saga, and then of course expanding into this alleged criminality that was taking place in his particular unit, with these EMPD officials allegedly in collusion with private security officers. So that is what we expect to take place this week in terms of the evidence, and we expect that the first person who will be up will be Advocate Bahari, who is the now suspended legal head. He's one of those individuals that are starting to face the consequences of the evidence that is led. And what is critical with his evidence is because, remember, as the legal head, he would have done that internal probe that essentially cleared or squashed any possibility of Mkhwanazi facing any accountability in terms of the Blue Light saga. You remember that there was an internal report that came out that cleared Mkhwanazi, and it was that which Dr. Morgan Mashazi used to defend Mkhwanazi staying in his position and, of course, not being held accountable. Where Linda Xashega comes in is that she didn't play her role, her professional role as a HR head, in ensuring that the recommendations against Mkhwanazi were implemented. I think those were the recommendations coming from IPED. Then alternatively, what took place is that we're seeing evidence where Linda Xashega allegedly victimized several people who dared to speak up against Julius Mkhwanazi. So certainly a lot of questions to answer, because these are people who are in critical roles that have to ensure the rule of law and were expected to follow in with those recommendations, ensure that he was disciplined, come up with an internal report that was plausible and factual, and of course deal with the allegations at hand. But it seems that both allegedly failed in their duties as a legal head and an HR head to deal with this growing pervasive culture of alleged criminality within the municipality, and instead chose to shield Julius Mkhwanazi. We have to find out why that was so, what the pressures were on these particular individuals, what were the expectations of them in these particular circumstances and the roles that they carried, and why they failed to uphold their duties as legal heads and HR heads in the city of Ekurhuleni.
What is interesting, of course, is that Kemi Bihari's name comes up in that statement from the presidency as one of those individuals who, may very well have difficult questions to answer, because we're told there might be a prima facie case against him. It'll be interesting to see, I suppose, his response to the commission, given the fact that that statement came even before he appeared before the inquiry.
Indeed. Well, certainly there is evidence before the commission that you simply can't dispute, Ayanda. In terms of that internal report that cleared Mkhwanazi, it does exist. So the commission was able to make prima facie findings in the interim report, and he is included in those Ekurhuleni municipality officials who have been flagged as those, the list of 9, if you could put it that way, that includes Mkhwanazi, Dr. Morgan Mashazi, and him as well, and many others who have been found to have committed prima facie wrongdoing in terms of the allegations on the city of Ekurhuleni. So there is some evidence that will be difficult to dispute. He'll just have to provide answers as to what was taking place in that regard. Such an instance will be that of the reports that cleared Mkhwanazi, when it's quite clear that there was some sort of an incident that took place with this alleged Blue Light saga, and that Vusimuzi Cap Notlala's vehicles from his alleged private security firm would not have been allowed to use those particular lights and be fitted with those lights in light of the security concerns that could come with such a risk if it was allowed to thrive beyond what took place. And of course, you'll have to answer about his quite apparent inaction in light of not only the allegations about the Blue Light saga, but of course other allegations implicating his particular section, the irregular appointments of persons, and then of course how they were allegedly conducting these operations within the Ekurhuleni region under the guise of legitimate police operations. But what was taking place was blatant alleged criminality, which even extended to a murder case that is of Emmanuel Mbenze. So a clear violation there, and a failure to uphold the duties expected of that of the legal head, who had a responsibility to investigate these concerns surrounding Mkhwanazi and come up with a factual report. However, it seems from the evidence that allegedly this process was used to come up with a favorable outcome that would squash any possible investigation against Mkhwanazi, which falls under the umbrella rather of the kind of shield that this particular individual enjoyed. So at 9:30 a.m. this morning, it's going to be quite tough for Bahari. I'm not sure if he'll be able to survive the kind of evidence that is on the ground and the objective facts before the Commission about the allegations before the Madlanga Commission on the city of Ekurhuleni. But we expect at 9:30 a.m. we'll be able to get into some of that evidence, and I can already hear the spokesperson cueing us that the Commission will be making their way in, and you can see Advocate Bahari is already seated on the witness stand to give his version. Let's take a listen.